I don't like the metaverse. I mean, I liked it in Snow Crash. I thought the metaverse was kind of cool in Snow Crash, but the subtext on Snow Crash is that the world is so awful that we have to go to the metaverse. And that's a massive cope. Like, you know, the drive towards the metaverse is a sign that we're giving up on reality and creating, you know, imaginary things because we don't want to look at the world around us because it's too ugly, it's too depressing, it's too impossible to climb, you know, a real hierarchy. So the metaverse is symbolic of like the decay of care for the world. You know, like I don't think that you could claim to be an environmentalist and pro metaverse. Those things don't make sense. You know, if you believe in the environment, then you fight for the real world because the metaverse represents an ability to neglect the real world in favor of something fake. Yeah, I don't think that experiment will end well. Now, do I feel you know, every time I hear about some of these virtual reality games, I feel this like longing to go and see what that's like because I never have. And I remember being really into video games in high school and before. And, you know, I remember what being like captivated by a video game was like. It's compelling. And I don't let myself do it anymore because, you know, it's a thing you can easily become addicted to. And I think the metaverse is, God, I can't imagine how compelling it is to be in a world like that. Where, you know, anyway, I'm straying a little away from things, but I don't think that I guess the technology is cool, but it cannot come at the expense of reality. You have to figure out a way to mediate it. And, you know, maybe this is really just something that has to happen at the individual level. You know, when people are building technology and they want it and it's making, you know, it's making its way, you know, you have to grant that and not just rail against it. But it is definitely something you have to fight from disappearing into, the same way that you need to not disappear into the doom scrolling on Twitter and disappear into the, you know, the MMO.
Right.
It does seem like a much more compelling one and much easier.
Yeah, and that's kind of
the two.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I had a pretty terrifying conversation with a clinical psychologist about 2 weeks ago who specializes in video game addiction. And we were basically talking about, okay, let's think about kind of where this is going. Video game addiction is already a problem. In fact, the DSM, which is kind of, it's like the Bible for mental health professionals, it now has video game addiction as a classified disorder. And what's that?
Surprised it took them that long.
Yeah. It's been an issue for a while, but it's now getting to the point, right, that serious clinical intervention is needed for non-trivial number of people. And you know, you think about the trends there. You have companies paying, you know, behavioral psychologists millions of dollars and engineers to figure out how to tap into these very primal feedback loops and needs that we have to achieve and learn and everything else. And then you build a virtual, personalized kind of experience around that. You're going from 2D to 3D with something that's fully immersive. A lot harder to take off a headset than step away from the screen, right? And then the thing that he brought up, which I hadn't even totally thought about, was now let's imagine crypto intersects with all these things, and you've now financialized the entire experience.
Oh, a lot of people are trying to do that.
Yeah.
Well,
but not successfully.
No,
not yet.
I mean, but this was
but
like,
once,
you know, the Mark Zuckerberg's whole pitch is, you know, NFT creations that they take 42% of the cuts for, and the backlash was not that they're financializing this, alternate reality. It's that Facebook's taking that big of a cut. Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like you've digitized Las Vegas and there's no age limit.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can think a step ahead as well of the metaverse, and extrapolate things like Neuralink out a ways.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it really gets frightening, because the whole idea with Neuralink is it, I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the way it works, is it monitors brain signals, uses machine learning to figure out which brain signals map to which actions, which sensations, which senses really. And then it can simulate those electrical signals to trigger motions. And this is what they showed with pigs walking, was that they could, take and the kind of stated purpose of the thing is, at least for now, to help cure paralysis, because it can, learn which part of the brain is responsible for locomotion, and then it can trigger that activity on your behalf to give that ability back to you. The current Neuralink is very simple. So, walking and the electrical signals that feed into that are fairly simplistic. The rest of the brain does quite a bit more, but you could imagine 100 years from now, or less, depending on how fast this stuff goes, Neuralink or something like it is able to learn how vision works and simulate vision on your behalf. So the metaverse is no longer a headset you put on. It's the ability for, a computer to stimulate your brain into thinking you're seeing something that you're not, which means it could actually completely create a reality if you extrapolate that into taste, all the other senses. And now imagine that it's Google that is, running that ship, and it's that chip, and it's connected to the internet. Okay, you open the door to immersive ads, in your sleep, where, you're having a dream that feels completely realistic, that is actually just an advertisement from Google. You have, a dangerous thought that you're immediately, zapped into no longer having, because you're not allowed to have that thought. I mean, the shit gets it gets really scary really quickly.